Alright, I'm excited for this one, and some of you know that Boros is one of my favorite characters, but I also really like crazy overpowered feats, and when they're done really well, of course. I mean, anybody could just make an overpowered character and say so-and-so can blow up a galaxy, but it doesn't really matter unless you really execute it well and truly show us the crazy feats of a certain character, and this is what we're going to be looking at with Boros, because they do it excellently, and it is so satisfying seeing this guy in action. So Meteoric Burst Boros, of course, we're going to be talking about how powerful this monster among monsters, the freak of all freaks, really is and where he stacks up in the One Punch Man universe. So in this video, I'm going to be saying things like strongest, fastest, most durable, but just remember that I'm not comparing him to Saitama. Saitama is the one above all. No one is close to him. I'm basically just saying that in relation to everyone else, so just keep that in mind. So let's get into it. So Meteoric Burst is essentially Boros' ultimate form. It's all of the energy coming from in his body, which is an immense amount, and it's transforming into a propulsive force, elevating speed and power beyond the limitations of living flesh. And this is so powerful that the stress it puts on his body shortens his friggin' lifespan. So all of the energy that we saw from released Boros, that's just converted straight to fuel, and it's making this crazy overpowered beast of all beasts. So how strong is he? And not just overall, but like physical strength. Well, he's the strongest. Just remember what I said about Saitama earlier. So him just throwing a punch after like an initial lunge at Saitama, the force of it hitting him, and then we see the fallout from it, is so massive that it's blowing up the other half of his ship when they're on top of it. And if we're looking at the perspective of how big this ship is compared to the city below, it's essentially wiping out like a quarter, if not more, of the city. So this means that his punch, just the force of a lunge, I mean, it's not just a standard punch. I don't want to give him too much credit here, but him lunging and that punch is creating the force, I'm going to say similar to that of like Orochi's full-powered beam. Maybe even more than that, maybe a tiny bit less, but it's very comparable to that. And that is just a friggin' punch from this guy lunging. And of course, we can't forget about the moon kick. He's so powerful that he kicked Saitama to the friggin' moon in like a second. That is absurd. Like, no other S-Class hero has even remotely come close to showing that levels of strength. And let's just go deeper, because in the first iteration of Chapter 36, instead of the moon kick, Murata drew Boros breaking off this gigantic, like, skyscraper-esque pillar from the top of his ship, picking it up like it was like a spear or something, and then hucked it at Saitama, and with such force that it went directly to the bottom of his ship. Just keep in mind how big the ship is compared to a city. Now, of course, this does not happen in the final product. We get the moon kick instead, but this still happened. So it's like kind of like pseudo-canon in a way, but I still think this is illustrating how freakishly physically strong just Meteoric Boros is, which I think is a cut above every other character, at least that we have seen so far. Keep that in mind. We're probably going to see other freaks like this in the future, but as of right now, he is the king. So how fast is he? Well, there's no real way to like accurately say, well, he's this fast, but if we compare him to Flashy Flash, who is essentially the fastest character that we currently know of outside of Boros, we can see that he's probably faster than him, because when he initially lunges at Saitama after achieving his new form, Saitama looks genuinely surprised at the speed that he is capable of achieving here, and then immediately lands a punch square in his face. Now, Flashy Flash had a similar encounter with Saitama in Chapter 115, but he was coming around the corner on Saitama, catching him off guard, and Saitama gave kind of a similar reaction to it. It was surprised, but there's a contrast between the reaction that Saitama is giving to Boros lunging at him just straight in front of him, and Flashy Flash coming around the corner, which we could assume going at top speed because he uses his Flashy Slash, which is essentially his ultimate move. Now, Saitama dodges this pretty easily, and then he's kind of unfazed by it, and then he goes up and flashy flashes face. So we're seeing that Boros, who's a couple feet away from Saitama, who's in clear vision of him, surprising him and landing the shot. Flashy Flash, on the other hand, surprising him from around the corner and still misses 2 slashes. So I think this is showing us that Meteoric Burst Boros is faster than Flashy Flash, probably by a lot. Both are fast, but there is a clear difference between the two. Also, the way that it's depicted when he's punching Saitama and landing these combos on him, it's easily the fastest depiction of speed we have ever seen in the series. I mean, just look, he's like in multiple places at once, and this isn't like Sonic's burial stuff or Tenfold Funeral. This is obviously on another level. I mean, also, like in another iteration of him landing combos on Saitama, it's just flashes of light going around Saitama while he's guarding. So, how durable is he? Well, you guessed it, he is the most durable, because he takes an earnest punch from Saitama. Now, this is not named, it doesn't say normal punch the way that he does against Orochi, but considering that Saitama throws this in retaliation to Boros' crazy onslaught combo move that we were just talking about, he hits him fair square right in the solar plexus and just sends him back like, I don't know, 50 feet or something like that. And he doesn't even fall. He regains his footing and stands his ground. No one does this to Saitama's punch. No one. Not even Darkshine in the VGS can take a punch from Saitama. And this guy is regaining his ground like it's like if Tank Top Master punched Puri Puri Prisoner or something. This is absurd levels of durability here. Now granted, a consecutive normal punch turns him into a Jackson Pollock painting, but he's still conscious while he's just Viscera, which is, I don't even understand how this is possible, but it just makes sense because of Boros' alien biology. He's just able to do this, but still, he's conscious and able to pull himself back together, which brings us to his regeneration ability, which is also the best. It's the top tier regeneration within the series. I mean, just in his released form, if he focused his energy, he can like regenerate his arm. But in Meteoric Burst, he's coming back from just being goop. He's just goop into a normal form within an instant. And then finally, he was conscious after a serious punch. Like, I don't know what to tell you after that. I mean, yeah, it completely wrecked him and he was essentially on life support for like a couple seconds, but he was still conscious and had a mild conversation with Saitama after a frigging serious punch. There's no one that could replicate this, at least currently. He is above everyone else easily in this feat as well. And then finally, let's talk about the Collapsing Star Roaring Cannon. So when he decides to release all of the energy that is fueling him, he can convert it into like a Kamehameha-esque beam. And this beam, as he claims, is powerful enough to destroy the Earth, making him the only known character currently with the ability to do that. So yeah, he can destroy the Earth if he wants to. But let us just remember that he's releasing all of his energy into this. So it's not like he can just keep going after this. This is like a one and done. This is like his final trump card move. And that brings me to his disaster level. Now, one said Boros' disaster level is greater to or equal than dragon, or above dragon, or dragon or above, whatever translation you want to go with. Basically, he's not outright saying God. He doesn't even say God at all. So I think that's why he is not God, because he just doesn't have like a normal ability to destroy the planet. I'm just taking a guess here. None of this is like canon or gospel or confirmed or anything. I'm just trying to decipher why one said this. I mean, besides the obvious fact that he's waiting to reveal a disaster level God being, and he didn't want to use it on Boros since he was like the first big bad of the series. But since it's like his final end-all be-all thing that uses all of his energy, maybe that's holding him back from other legitimate God level beings out there. But that being said, I fully think that Meteoric Burst Boros is the closest to God we have ever seen. And I think that like he should be considered at least like fringe disaster level God. Like I don't even think like above dragon is good enough for him. Like he's above dragon. If that makes sense. I don't want to get too outrageous with this stuff, but I can't exactly say he's God because one didn't, and we have to respect what one says, but man, he's right there. He's knocking at the door because the feats that we just went over are unrivaled at this point. I mean, maybe next year or the year after we'll see something close to this, but until then, he is in a league of his own, outside of Saitama, of course. But that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. I did. I love this guy, and I love the way that Madhouse and Bones animated his fight with Saitama, and I know most of you do too, but let me know what you think about him. Do you think he's just God and disregard what one says, or do you think he's Fridge God? Let me know, and if you liked it, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon. It gives you access to a weekly Q&A, and if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.